Guys, I think it's finally happening. We are witnessing the downfall of Western consumerism, and it's all because China is exposing these luxury brands for being fake luxury. I think we all knew in the back of our minds that most of the manufacturing that came to the US was done by China, but now that these luxury brands are being exposed directly by the manufacturers, it's just hard proof solidifying that we've been just sold a scheme all along. We've been marketed into buying brands that aren't actually holding the value they tell us they hold. The whole point of buying a luxury item is to know that it has wealth to it, it has worth to it, and that you're paying for that exclusivity and that you're paying for that actual value. But now that we know it's all being manufactured in China and it's being exposed, what's the point of buying it? I think it's time we take a hard look in the mirror and start investing in things that actually provide value.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Have you been on a site of TikTok where China is exposing America and big brands? Gucci, Chanel, Lululemon, and many, many others, Nike. All these products that you guys consume and spend hundreds and thousands of dollars for are made in a Chinese manufacturing company for less than $10. And they come here and upsell. Like I said on my video, big business in America been getting their wealth and getting rich off the people in the U.S. And we blame China. You
That's
go
true.
over there and use their cheap labor and come over here and sell it. All these Jordans and Nikes where people hurt each other over cost $5 and $10. You do anything and everything, work jobs, work tirelessly to consume products, buy for your kids, and it's cheap products. These big brands have made a fool out of us. And China's so pissed off at the United States that they're exposing it. They made a video, one guy, and said, look around my house. How many products made in the USA? 0. Look in your house, how many products made in China. America is too dependent on China, and now they laughing at us because they're saying America has no leverage. Child, this should show you something. Stop being a consumer materialism person because you wearing cheap products like everybody else.
Baby, the peasants have spoken, and I love China even more. I'm loving this. China has just opened its doors to Americans with what? Visa-free travel. Why? It's not just for tourism, baby. It's for shopping. Here's the kicker. People are now flying to China, thank you, China, to buy what used to be called French luxury, Italian excellence. In fact, it has always been made in China, or at least for a very long time. And China is owning it. From made in France to made in China. I love it. I really do. It's great quality. Think handbags, tech gear, skincare. The same factories, the same supply chains, but half the markup. And now you can buy it directly with no visa needed. This is China's clapback, and I'm here for it. If the West is going to label everything
I'm
made
booking
in
my
China,
flight.
I think what China is saying, okay, fine. Come here and buy it yourself. No middleman anymore. Luxury isn't dead. It just changed its address.
It is like wild to me that some people didn't know that luxury goods are made in the same factories as fakes. So like when I worked for Emirates, it was a known thing that certain destinations you could get certain things, like people liked South Africa for getting meat. People liked going to Europe, certain countries, to grab certain groceries. Then there was China. It was like a known thing that you could get really nice luxury dupes in China. So I remember when this bag was going like viral all over social media, and I fell in love with it. But I was not gonna pay thousands of dollars for this. Are you freaking kidding me? So when I got a layover in China, it was Guangzhou, I was ecstatic because I was on a mission. I was gonna find those hidden luxury goods stores if it was the last thing that I did. And I did. I took 2 other crew members with me and I was like, listen guys, I want this bag. We're gonna find it. And there are literally men on the street and they'll be like, you want bag? You want bags? You want watch? And I was like, yes, I sure do. Take me. You go into these stores and you go like upstairs into these hidden apartments. It's really sketchy, honestly, but they'll take you into these rooms and there are just like walls and walls and walls of designer goods. It is literally amazing. And it's funny because it looks and feels identical to the real thing. Like, you would literally never know that this was a fake. Okay. You know, and I almost fell into that whole, I'm gonna go to Louis Vuitton and buy a $3,000 bag. Nah, bitch, not anymore. Especially after all of this is coming out. Yourself over to DHgate and Alibaba, okay? That's where you can get all of this stuff.
I think this China shit going over a lot of people's head. What China is basically telling us Americans is that we're not buying dupes when we shop from DHgate. It's all made from the same material. What Americans are paying for, that's why they shit so expensive, like a Birkin bag is 38 racks, is the Americans are fucking being brainwashed and thinking it's high quality when it's the same as DHgate. All Americans is doing is paying for the logo.
Facts.
And this is how they keep us in a loop, in a cycle. DHgate has the same material as a Gucci store, as Louis Vuitton, as Birkin. Like, just don't let that go over y'all head. Because a lot of people be like, I'm still not buying nothing from DHgate. I'm still not buying nothing fake. Whole time trying to tell you, bitch, it's the same material. Y'all are paying for a logo. We use the same material in everything we make.
First of all, after finding out what I just found out about the U.S. and China, you know, I want to say I'm highly ticked off. I'm highly upset. 3 years ago, I paid $450 for these Gucci slides at the Gucci store right here in Houston, Texas. And now China done exposed the fact that these shoes right here only cost 75 cents to produce. You know what? Real Gucci slides. I'm done. What the hell with these Gucci slides? You know what? That's over here.
That's $400 though.
China, listen. If y'all watching this, China, I have nothing against y'all. I want to personally say thank you. What they did was wrong. 75 cents for Gucci slides. I got about 15 pair of these things in my damn closet. What the hell's going on, man? 75 cents? How much were these to produce? How much were these, huh? Were these another one of those famous slides that Valentino that only cost 10 or 12 cents? Listen, I'm buying direct now from the manufacturer. I'm finna start buying manufacturer straight directly. So basically, these are fake. These are basically fake. That's what y'all tell. I'm upset, man. So I've been walking around with fake Gucci slides on the whole time. You mean to tell me I could have just walked into a knockoff store and bought these same Gucci slides for $10 or $12? Nobody would have knew that they was fake. Like, people say it's the quality, but nobody's gonna walk up and say, hey, let me feel the quality of your Gucci slides. Hey, let me feel the quality of your Ameri to see if it's real. I'm upset, man. China, thank you for exposing these people. This is how I feel about these Gucci slides. Thank you again, China. We, as Americans, appreciate you guys exposing the truth. Thank you.
However, when I arrived in Beijing, I was shocked. The designer bags, the designer timepieces, the skincare. Okay, the skincare. All the same brands that we think of as European luxury being sold locally at a fraction of the price. And that's when I realized a lot of things that we have been told about luxury is just really marketing. It's
Wow.
also access. And who gets to buy at what price? Now I teach women, especially women over 50, how to travel beautifully rent-free and part-time abroad without getting trapped in the luxury trap. If you want to see the world differently, go to the link in my bio. I have an ultimate house sitting guide because that's what I do. I'm a luxury house sitter. Your passport is your power.
中美贸易战打响了。
The US-China trade war has kicked off. Just look at these containers piling up on the docks. These are all waiting to be exported. This footage was taken on April 11th by a Douyin user in Zhejiang at a local port. It's not just Zhejiang. In recent days, major export hubs along China's coast, including Guangdong, Shanghai, and even Hong Kong, have seen freight operations come to a near standstill. Ports in these areas
Damn, look at
are
all
now
those
filled with
containers.
containers waiting to be shipped. The 145% tariff imposed by the United States on Chinese goods has officially taken effect, triggering severe disruption across China's export supply chain. According to Chinese financial outlet Caixin, at Shanghai's Yangshan and Waigaoqiao ports, many shipments bound for the U.S. were rushed onto vessels in a race to depart before the tariffs were enforced. But after the U.S. announced a 125% tariff, Shanghai's once busy export activity came to a sudden stop within days. By April 10th, almost no cargo ships bound for the U.S. could be seen. Reports say many cargo ships and freight flights between China and the U.S. have been canceled. Containers that missed the shipping deadline are now stuck at dockside storage yards, and many exporters are filing customs return paperwork. It is estimated that about half the shipping capacity on U.S.-China routes will be canceled in the near future. According to Radio Free Asia, Mr. Qian, an exporter from Guangdong, currently on a business trip in Shanghai, said in an April 11th interview that Yantian Port in Guangdong is seeing the same situation as Shanghai. Containers are stacked high, and very few cargo ships are leaving. A Costco shipping worker stationed at Yangshan Port said many sailings on U.S.-China routes have already been canceled. Ships that are not fully loaded, where
Even
charters would
Costco.
normally pay for unused capacity, are no longer sailing. 3 vessels are being combined into 2, and eventually into 1, even if it ends up without cargo. A manager at a large freight forwarding company added that most exporters shipping to the U.S. have now suspended their operations and are waiting to see how the situation unfolds.
又加了50%，做每家线全线崩盘呀。
Fellow freight forwarders, we can't survive anymore. They've raised the tariffs by another 50%. The US-Canada route is totally crashing. Clients are pulling their shipments by the truckload. How am I supposed to live? The trade war's bullets are hitting me hard. Some people might ask, why is Canada even involved in these US tariffs? Why is the US-Canada route treated as one line? After the goods reach the US, they go by bonded truck to
Amazon
Canada.
and eBay
But once they get
sellers
to Canada,
are affected.
they go by bonded truck to the US, or they transfer by train. They used to be like inseparable sisters, but now they've broken up. He raises tariffs on him, and he raises tariffs on him. Now I have nothing to eat. Of course, it's not just me. I bet some of you watching my video won't have food either. These times are tough. Hang in there, friends. Better days will come. Once we get through this, I'll be one of the survivors of the 2025 US-China trade war. With 145% tariffs, and I still managed to steal 20 containers. Who says only those standing in the light are heroes? Those who survive will witness history. Ming Pao reports that individuals working in the sea freight consolidation business in both China and the US say that, after consulting within their industry, they found that as of April 10th, the booking volume for container ships departing from various ports in China to the US had dropped by more than half. They predict that due to the unpredictable nature of the tariff war, some goods may be rejected by buyers and returned after reaching the US. The air freight market is also facing significant damage. A freight forwarder from South China told Caixin that next week's air shipments to the US are also expected to drop by 90%, with major airlines cutting back on cargo flights. Due to the sudden high tariffs, exporters and their clients must renegotiate how to share costs, which has led to many goods being forced to stop shipping. High tariffs have not only caused port congestion, but have also placed foreign trade factories in an unprecedented crisis. According to Caixin and other media, since the U.S. tariffs took effect, export factories in Zhejiang and Guangdong, two major freight trade provinces, have almost stopped production, and warehouses are filled with goods that were originally meant to be exported.
绍兴老板们集体破防了。The business owners in Shaoxing are breaking down. These 145% tariffs. Did Trump even use a calculator to come up with that? You buy goods worth $100, but first you have to pay $145 in tariffs to US customs. Mr. Wong from the textile factory had $200,000 in costs for a shipment of polyester fabric that used to make a profit of $50,000 selling to the US. But now with the new tariffs, he's losing $40,000. Mr. Wong was crying in front of his warehouse, and now no one wants the cloth, not even for dish rags. Many other owners have also had their cash flow cut off and orders are being cancelled. What should we do now?
Similar reports are coming in from across China. A user from Jiangsu commented, "My family does foreign trade, and most of our orders are from the US. Yesterday, we got a call from the client asking us to pause." Another user from Guangdong commented, "Clients exporting to the US have almost all canceled their orders, and they're not even keeping the deposits." An employee from a foreign trade factory in Zhejiang commented and said, "Our company's exports are mainly to the US. Now the clients urgently asked us to stop. As for the goods still on the sea, if they're cleared by May 27, we'll still face a 54% tariff. We can't verify the accuracy of this grace period, but it shows how desperate these struggles foreign trade businesses are for any possible relief." A business owner running an automotive parts processing factory in Guangdong expresses helplessness in a video.
这关税一涨，厂子直接变养老。
Once the tariffs went up, the factory turned into a retirement home. This time last year, the machines were deafening. Now, not even rats come around. 2 million yuan worth of goods are stacked up like mountains, and no one wants them, not even for free. The workers sit outside in the sun all day, and I'm paying their basic wages out of my own pocket. The bank is hounding me every day over the loan. If this keeps up for another 3 months, these machines will be worth nothing but scrap. The Americans raised tariffs without a second thought, but it's killing those of us in real industry. Does anyone have a way to clear out this inventory? I'll take scrap prices if I have to. A clothing factory owner is clearing out inventory due to excess stock.
这白裤子谁要是不嫌弃的，你们都拿走穿吧。
Does anyone want these white pants? If you don't mind, you can just take them. It's such a shame to throw away tens of thousands of them. The US is hitting us with heavy tariffs, and these goods are affected. Physical stores are closing down. All the big brands are shipping their genuine products with labels. There's only 3 days left, so I'm clearing everything out at a discount. If you've never bought before, now's the time to try a few.
The U.S.-China trade war
What are
has
they
dealt
going
a
to do
devastating blow
with
to
all the
industries
leftover
that
product?
depend on exports to the United States, especially in sectors such as textiles, apparel, electronics, and automotive products. Factories that previously manufactured goods for American brands have been hit hardest, with widespread order cancellations and even finished products left without buyers. Many factories have been forced to halt production or attempt to reduce inventory through domestic sales, but weak consumer demand at home has limited the impact, resulting in heavy losses. Today is April 10th. U.S. tariffs have surged to a staggering 145%. Many friends running OEM factories for American brands told me all their U.S. orders were canceled. Even completed goods are being rejected.
Even OEM
and shipments that
factories.
already reached the port are being pulled back. Some shameless clients are even demanding their deposits back. When disaster hits, it's always the factories left holding the bag. No client is willing to shoulder the burden of these tariffs, and none of them care whether the factory has already paid for the materials. Clients may lose a small deposit, but the losses for factories go far beyond that. In Shantou, Guangdong, a toy and gift manufacturer said they have received no orders from the United States this year. In Shenzhen, David Feng, an Amazon seller, said he had no choice but to raise product prices by 30%, cut back on advertising, and shift resources to markets outside the U.S. Wang Xing, president of the Shenzhen Cross-Border E-Commerce Association, noted that the high tariffs have completely changed the cost structure. Longer customs clearance times and soaring logistics costs have made it extremely difficult for Chinese sellers to operate in the U.S. market. She warned that a wave of closures among small and medium-sized businesses could lead to a sharp increase in domestic unemployment. Under the weight of the trade war, public sentiment in China has become increasingly divided. On the one hand, some people, influenced by CCP propaganda, are showing strong patriotic feelings. The owner of a down comforter factory on Hui shared in a video. We've stopped production. Not long ago, fans were asking if the U.S. tariff hike affects us. As you know, most of our business is with the U.S., making up 90% of our operations. As of yesterday, the U.S. tariffs went up to 145%, and the direct impact on us is that all of our export business to the U.S. has been halted, including OEM clients who've also told us to stop production. All of our goods at the ports have to be pulled back, and the losses are incalculable. Perhaps influenced by the Chinese government's propaganda, he expressed his firm support for China's confrontation with the U.S., despite being a victim of the trade war. He said, "Is life hard? It's incredibly hard. But do we need to fight this battle? Absolutely. I still hear people say we don't need a rising power, just dignity for the common people. That's pure nonsense. Only when the country rises can the people truly have dignity. Without the backing of the nation, how could small businesses like ours stand tall and make money overseas? For big exporters, we're probably the first ones to fall in this war, but it's not sacrifice that's frightening. It's surrender. To put it bluntly, I'll go all in, even if it means losing everything." The video went viral on social media, sparking heated discussions among social media users outside of China. Having made money off Americans for so long, growing rich without a shred of gratitude, and then turning around to support the government that exploits them, it's unbelievable that these ungrateful people haven't gone bankrupt yet. Just stop selling goods to them, and that's the way to go all the way. Some people think that this is just using patriotism to sell products and become an influencer. On the one hand, pessimistic sentiments are also spreading. Mr. Hong, a user from Jiangsu, told Radio Free Asia, "The pessimism is really bad. Even elderly people in their 80s and young people are feeling it." Mr. Zhang from Qingdao, Shandong, said, "All industries are showing signs of decline. Guangdong and Zhejiang are the hardest hit by the tariff war, and both technology and the economy are stagnating. He worries that if developed countries stop buying Chinese products, the consequences of an economic collapse will be unbearable." Another blogger wrote, "2025 will be tough, but I didn't expect it to be this hard. This feeling of helplessness is spreading among many in the foreign trade industry."
This trade war has really hit us in foreign trade, and it hurts. You might think that if foreign trade people are suffering, those who don't work in foreign trade will be fine, right? Let me give you a simple example. This morning, I was heading to Hong Kong for a trade show. Because the foreign trade situation is bad, I had to bring everything myself and take the high-speed train. You know, Shenzhen is very close to Hong Kong, so normally we would just take a cab. But doesn't that mean a cross-border taxi driver in Shenzhen has just lost a long trip from Nanshan to Hong Kong today? So this affects everyone. Our supplier list is so long. If the main client is struggling, do you think they will be doing fine? Now, going back to foreign trade, if a company mostly deals with the US market, they probably won't survive this year because social security costs are rising too. When a company can't hold on, do you think the owner has it the worst? Every business owner leaves themselves an escape route. Their way out is to live off savings, rely on interest and passive income to get by. But what about the laid off workers? How long can they last without a job or salary? It's really iconic that those laid off workers might be the same people cheering in their social circles right now. Such a strong feeling of powerlessness, really.
High tariffs have also dealt a heavy blow to China's cross-border e-commerce sector. Wang Xin, president of the Shenzhen Cross-Border E-Commerce Association, described it as an unprecedented shock. She said the tariffs will fundamentally reshape the cost structure, with longer custom clearance times and rising logistics costs, making it extremely difficult for Chinese sellers to remain competitive in the United States. She warned that the pressure on small and medium-sized enterprises could lead to a sharp increase in unemployment in China. David Feng, an Amazon seller based in Shenzhen, said he has raised prices by 30%, reduced his product categories and advertising budget, and shifted his resources to markets outside the US. With exports hindered, many cross-border e-commerce sellers are looking to the domestic market. A business owner who has been in cross-border e-commerce for 8 years posted a video at 3 a.m. sharing her thoughts.
Hey guys, it's just past 3 a.m. I just finished dealing with a batch of stranded cross-border goods and I suddenly felt like sharing something from the heart. You know, every time I see the word tariff, I feel a bit triggered now. I've been doing cross-border e-commerce for 8 years. Things like logistics delays, exchange rate roller coasters, and replying to emails at 3 a.m., I've been through it all. But I never expected that this year's tariffs would crush us. The increase in tariffs have really squeezed the survival space for small and medium businesses like ours. Tonight I was thinking, has the golden age of cross-border e-commerce passed? Should I start focusing on the domestic market? Actually, I've been preparing for that. I registered a new trademark and plan to continue in the beauty tools market. But since the era of wearing masks is over, domestic consumption is really low. Now I'm unsure whether restarting these projects will even make money.
All the
Wow.
clothing in Guangzhou is sitting unsold. We can't ship anything out. Many factories have too much raw material stockpiled. It's all because Trump started the trade war and the tariffs have been raised to over 100%. So we've decided all the clothing businesses in Guangzhou will shift from export to domestic sales. No matter the price, we just have to sell everything. The US-China trade war has rapidly escalated since it resumed on April 2nd. On April 10th, the Trump administration announced an increase in tariffs on Chinese goods to 145%. The next day, China responded by raising tariffs on U.S. goods to 125%. Xi Jinping stated that China is not afraid of an unjust suppression, while the Ministry of Foreign Affairs declared, if the U.S. insists on escalating, China will fight to the end. The State Council Tariff Commission was even more blunt. Even if the U.S. continues to raise tariffs, American exports to China will find no market, and China will not respond. This stance was also reflected in statements from Chinese government officials involved in public diplomacy. On April 10, Victor Gao, vice president of the Center for China and Globalization, was interviewed by Channel 4 News' Kathy Newman. When asked about China losing the U.S. market, he said it didn't matter.
Yeah, and China will lose the US market, which, as I've said, is 15%.
We don't care. We don't care. China has been here for 5,000 years. Most of the time, there was no United States, and we survived. Right. And if the United States wants to bully China, we will deal with the situation without the United States. And we expect to survive for another 5,000 years.
The loss of 15% of its export market, i.e. what you export to the US?
Not at all. China is fully prepared to fight to the very end because the world is big enough that the United States is not the totality of the market in the world. So if the United States wants to go in that direction of completely shutting itself out of the China market, be my guest.
As a senior executive at a think tank controlled by the Chinese Communist Party, his careless response to questions about the escalating US-China trade war and the potential loss of the US market is both shocking and disappointing. His indifference not only fails to offer constructive solutions, but may also legitimize a confrontation approach that ignores the consequences.
Everyone
This
is getting
attitude
taxed.
is inconsistent with his role at a think tank and risks leading to serious misjudgments by the leadership. Still, it is clear that he is acting as a mouthpiece for the CCP's external propaganda. Victor Gao's historical comparison, China has survived for 5,000 years without the US, is not only illogical, but also absurd. China's modern economy is deeply embedded in globalization and relies heavily on international trade, supply chains, and market networks. In 2025, China is no longer a self-sufficient agrarian society, but the world's second-largest economy, driven by export-led growth. Losing access to the U.S. market would mean the disappearance of hundreds of billions in trade, a breakdown of supply chains, and millions of jobs at risk. Reducing such a complex economic issue to a sweeping historical claim is not only an evasion of reality, but also a disregard for the businesses and citizens now struggling. More troubling is his declaration that China is Prepare to fight to the end while offering no concrete measures. This empty slogan raises a question. Who is it really aimed at? Is it to reassure the domestic public or to provoke global backlash?
Last month, I took an order for a batch of copper parts. I've already bought all the materials. It cost tens of thousands, and everything has been cut, ground, washed, and engraved. It's not finished
They
yet,
have to hold
but
all
today,
this
the customer
material.
messaged me and said the delivery might be delayed. After customs clearance, the taxes have gone up too much. A TikToker who works as a bulk trade supplier shared in his video the huge pressure he's under after the sudden increase in U.S. tariffs.
订单量5000多万美金，今年我们订单已经排到了26年的5月份。
Our orders are worth over 50 million US dollars. This year, we're already booked through May 2026. But with this 30% tariff hike, the impact on us is huge. If you're a small startup, it's not such a big deal because you don't ship enough to fill an entire container. But for us, it hits hard. Our profit margins in bulk trading are already razor thin. Now with a 34% tariff, it's like getting knocked to the ground.
He said the only thing he can do for now is wait. His backup plan is to ship through third-party warehouses in other countries. That's the only way forward. On April 7th, the owner of a clothing factory posted a video saying the entire foreign trade apparel industry in China is filled with anxiety.
现在做外贸单的
Everyone doing foreign trade now is nervous. A 50% tariff is just scary. Who's going to place orders under these conditions? Sure, some clothing businesses are still busy, but it's hard to make money anymore. US orders only make up part of our business, but there are so many clothing factories in China. If we all turn to Europe and there's no US orders, then think about it. Won't competition at home become even worse? Domestic sales are also weak this year. People just don't have money to spend, so how can this market possibly improve?
On April 2nd, U.S. President Donald Trump announced a new round of global-based tariffs, raising rates on dozens of countries. At the time of the announcement, the actual tariff rate for China stood at 34%.
在现行适用关税税率基础上，加征34%关税。
In response, the Chinese Communist Party announced on April 4th that it would impose a matching 34% tariff on all goods imported from the U.S. Trump then warned that he may raise tariffs on China by another 50%. The CCP responded by saying it's ready to fight to the end. While the Chinese government is showing a tough stance, many businesses in China are already feeling the pain. On April 7th, a TikToker filmed a clothing factory that had shut down and said the clothing industry is in serious trouble. All the machines in his factory are about to stop. He said this year is going to be incredibly tough. That same day, another TikToker posted a similar scene, workers moving goods around inside a clothing factory. He wrote that as soon as the U.S. swung its tariff hammer, the impact finally hit the apparel industry. His factory originally had orders scheduled through the end of July, but now over 6,000 down jackets have been put on hold, and their ready-to-ship products are piling up in the warehouse. He said both offline and online sales are struggling this year. Even live stream selling isn't
Look at all
working
those
anymore.
phones.
With sluggish consumer demand and weak domestic sales, the foreign trade slowdown is pushing more exporters into the domestic market, creating even more excess production. He said this year's apparel industry is like a pressure cooker that could blow at any moment. This isn't just panic, it's worse than during the pandemic. Many clothing business owners may lose everything they've built over a lifetime.
People seeing anybody seeing potential war with China.
Another TikToker showed the current situation at his factory. Because of the tariff hike, orders have been delayed or canceled. Now his packaging and printing factory doesn't even have boxes to make. All he can do now is clean the factory. A TikToker shared a video saying that after the U.S. increased tariffs, the impact on China's foreign trade is obvious. He mentioned that when he flies, there are hardly any Westerners on the plane, mostly people from Africa. Also, when entering the U.S., Chinese people face especially strict security checks.
现在我在白云机场。
I'm at Guangzhou Baiyun Airport right now, and the flight is about to take off. This tariff increase is really affecting China. If you look around, you can see there are almost no white faces here, mostly African brothers. This shows how tough the foreign trade situation is right now. When I went through customs, they saw my yellow skin and Chinese passport and gave me a hard time. They asked about every little detail, why I'm here, who I'm visiting, where I'm staying, how long I'll be, and what business I'm doing. Traveling abroad is already hard, and now people like me in foreign trade have to face Trump's 54% tariff hike and random checks.
On April 6, a female owner of a laser cutting factory, Liu Ting, posted a video saying that manufacturing in China is going to get even harder, and she plans to sell off her 30,000-watt equipment.
是的，你们没有听错，我可能要把去年4月份买的大组的激光要准备出掉了。
Yes, you heard me right. I might have to sell the laser equipment I bought
Damn,
last April.
30,000 watts.
I don't need to explain. You can probably guess why. The economic environment is bad, and the trade war has already started. Soon, all manufacturing businesses, especially small ones, will face bankruptcy. This is not an exaggeration. It's the reality. She also said that starting this month, all manufacturing businesses in China will face an unprecedented winter. More and more companies will go bankrupt, lay off workers, and downsize. Many manufacturing owners will end up with insufficient funds and will not survive. Cases in banks, law firms, and courts will pile up. The TikToker estimates that all manufacturing business owners are currently in an anxious, confused, and helpless state. Particularly for factories that relied on foreign trade orders, the shrinking foreign demand and declining domestic demand are making it difficult. Many small business owners can't sleep because of worries and fear. They're afraid all the years of hard work will go to waste. They fear they won't be able to pay employee wages or cover rent and utilities. The TikToker revealed that with electricity costs for her equipment already reaching her limit, she has decided to sell her 30,000-watt laser equipment. On April 8th, a TikToker from Zhejiang shared a video saying that she suddenly realized the U.S. tariff increase has also severely impacted non-exporting manufacturers.
浙江这边的厂，这个关税加上去之后。
How big of an impact has the tariff increase had on local factories in Zhejiang?
It's
I run a
affecting
small factory
everyone.
and don't deal with foreign trade, so I'm not sure how much it would affect me. But I've noticed that my upstream suppliers who export raw materials haven't received any orders for a long time. Not even one container has shipped out. When they can't get orders, they try to switch to domestic sales. Now, people at their factories are still working non-stop, running around to try to make domestic sales. So when they get involved in the domestic market, doesn't that just drag the domestic factories into it too? Everyone's getting caught in the spiral, and in the end, we'll all collapse together. The impact is really huge, and some people probably haven't realized it yet. Whether it's the impact on their foreign trade or on our factories that don't deal with foreign trade, it's all very significant. On April 7th, a TikToker from Foshan visited a newly built factory district and recorded footage of the vacant and neglected factory buildings.
He said, "Look at these factories that were just built last year. Now I can't even find a single person. There are no cars or people on the road. Some of these factories are single-story and others have multiple floors. The landlords spent nearly $1 billion yuan to build these. Just a few years ago, these beautiful buildings were all leased out by middlemen. You had to wait in line to rent a factory space, but now there isn't a single customer coming to view the space. The new factory buildings behind
That's
me
insane.
haven't even been renovated yet because the landlords are afraid of spending money if no one rents them. With the manufacturing industry in decline, every industry is struggling."
He recalled that some Chinese companies moved to Southeast Asia to avoid the U.S.-China trade war a few years ago. Now, this new wave of tariffs is a heavy blow to those companies because some countries have even higher tariffs than China. He questioned where these companies should go next: stay in Southeast Asia, move back to China, or shift to Africa. On April 7th, Ms. Gong, a manager of a Bluetooth headphone export company in Guangzhou, told Radio Free Asia that most companies in Guangdong that used to trade with the U.S. have stopped accepting orders due to tariff barriers. She said, "I had dinner with people from the industry yesterday, and they told me that they used to export products from Vietnam to the U.S. Now most of those orders have stopped. They're not taking new orders. They're just waiting to see how serious the situation will get. Right now, we know that foreign trade companies in Guangzhou and Guangdong are temporarily not accepting orders." Ms. Gong also mentioned that a Hong Kong company near her recently moved its factory to Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and is currently hiring Vietnamese locals. However, the sudden increase in U.S. tariffs has put the factory in a difficult position. She said they just built the factory in Vietnam, and now they're about to start operations. But now the U.S. has increased tariffs by 46% on Vietnam, so it's impossible to avoid the high tax rates. The investment they made earlier is now wasted. According to Trump's announced plans, the U.S. will implement differentiated tariffs on different countries and regions, with China at 34%, the EU at 20%, Taiwan at 32%, Vietnam at 46%, Switzerland at 31%, the UK and Brazil at 10%, and Japan, South Korea, and India at 24%.
Damn.
Additionally, Trump announced a minimum 10% tariff on all goods entering the U.S. However, on April 7th, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that nearly 70 countries have already reached out to the U.S. to discuss negotiations on Trump's latest tariff policy. He revealed that President Trump will personally participate in the talks to secure the best bargaining position for the U.S. Many Southeast Asian countries, including Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, and Malaysia, have expressed willingness to make adjustments and negotiate with the U.S. Despite Vietnam's proactive efforts to reduce U.S. import tariffs, the White House refused to offer reciprocal concessions, citing non-tariff cheating. U.S. trade advisor Peter Navarro recently said that Vietnam's issue lies in non-tariff methods, such as Chinese products being exported via Vietnam and the theft of U.S. intellectual property. His comments highlighted that the Trump administration not only sees tariffs as a tool to resolve trade imbalances, but is also trying to prevent country of origin laundering and reshape global manufacturing and supply chains. On April 6, a TikToker who runs a granulator production factory posted a video saying that due to the U.S. tariff policy, her factory has been working overtime to meet the demand from orders from Southeast Asia. Today is the second day of our holiday, but all our staff have been urgently called back to the factory to work overtime because of the tariff increase. Last night, our Southeast Asian customers called, asking us to hurry up and produce and ship. The boss said we should prioritize foreign orders. The big factories we work with are also working nonstop. I don't know what's going to happen next. Do you understand what this means? Some viewers commented under the video, saying, "Once these orders are done, there won't be any more orders. This is the last deal. This is the final flurry before the factory shuts down. Rushing to finish orders overnight, then pulling out when the business ends." After the U.S. announced the 34% tariff increase on Chinese goods, the People's Daily published a series of articles over 3 days, strongly criticizing the U.S.'s unilateral abuse of reciprocal tariffs, while stating the sky will not fall. However, it's clear that Chinese industry is feeling pessimistic. Reports from Chinese media indicate that Chinese manufacturers, foreign trade businesses, third-party intermediaries, and U.S. buyers are all struggling in this tariff battle. Some are reworking their costs overnight and engaging in price wars. Others are changing product specifications and shipping methods, while some are rushing to fulfill orders in an attempt to minimize losses before the new tariffs take effect. One foreign trade owner said, "No matter what, with these tariff hikes, the biggest losers are the business people." Mr. Zhu, an e-commerce entrepreneur from Jiangsu, told Radio Free Asia that the U.S.'s high tariffs on China will lead to the collapse of many e-commerce businesses. He said, "We are definitely affected. The impact is huge, and there's basically no profit left. We just can't keep doing business. Many e-commerce businesses in Jiangsu and Guangdong can't operate anymore. Everyone's in poverty now. The time of hunger and instability is coming. Just the other day, I met an elderly man in his 80s who was cursing the leaders, saying they've ruined this country. Our foreign policy is surrounded on all sides, and no country is engaging with China normally anymore." Veteran media figure Mr. Ge believes that the differences between China and the U.S. are not just about tariffs, and that Trump's tariff hikes are aimed at countries around the world. He points out that China's trade surplus with the U.S. nearly reached $300 billion last year, something President Trump greatly dislikes. He added that U.S.-Vietnam trade can be resolved through negotiations between the leaders of the countries, including lowering tariffs on Vietnamese products entering the U.S. But this is not the case for China. He said, "In comparison, the trade war is definitely more disadvantageous for China because China depends heavily on the U.S. market. The U.S. itself is a huge market. The key issue is that after China made the first move, no other countries followed, which is probably the most troublesome problem for China. If Vietnam successfully negotiates with the U.S. and benefits from it, it will attract many other countries to follow suit and negotiate as well." The People's Daily, the CCP's official paper, warned in a commentary that the U.S.'s actions will ultimately lead to a self-destructive cycle for the U.S. Australian scholar Li Yuanhua stated that while the U.S. will temporarily be affected, American society's ability to withstand shocks is relatively greater than China's. He said, "If life in China were to regress decades, could the Chinese people endure it? Can the CCP handle the growing public discontent? The CCP doesn't have many cards to play. When it collapses, promises it will likely not be in a rational way, and it won't be due to a desire to solve problems. In a rare move, there has been criticism within China against the CCP's countermeasures against the U.S. He Bin, former deputy director of the Public Policy Research Center at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, recently posted on social media. He said the CCP's countermeasures are entirely wrong. He made a comparison. The tariffs are like, if you hit your wife, I'll hit my wife. He further pointed out, the U.S. raising tariffs is like shooting yourself in the foot, and we should not shoot ourselves in the foot as well. He believes the correct countermeasure strategy is not to retaliate tit for tat, but to adopt a policy of comprehensive economic openness, implementing unilateral zero tariffs on all imported goods from other countries. Chinese economist Fu Peng believes that Trump's reciprocal tariffs are like a buyer gathering supplies for negotiation. If suppliers refuse to negotiate, it's like abandoning their chance to bid, which will exclude them from the supply chain.
That's true.
Fu Peng's comments are suspected to have been deleted. Chinese financial website Yicai cited analysis from Gao Ruidong, chief economist at Everbright Securities. He said that the current China-US trade friction is gradually extending into the fields of technology and finance. If negotiations continue to be blocked, the decoupling in these areas could further intensify. By May or June, the decoupling of technology and finance between China and the U.S. could resonate with the tariff policies, amplifying pressure on capital markets.